The sky was a canvas of impossible blue, a cruel mockery of peace. Below, the English Channel was a wrinkled sheet of aluminum foil. Above, there was only the sun and the waiting. Pilot Officer Arthur "Art" Donovan, late of Boston, Massachusetts, and now of the Royal Air Force's fledgling No. 71 Eagle Squadron, forced his breathing to slow. His leather-gloved hands weren't just holding the spade grip of his Supermarine Spitfire Mk1, they were strangling it. The vibration of the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine was a living thing, a frantic heartbeat thrumming through the thin metal skin of the fuselage and into his very bones. "Bandits! Bandits! Angels 2-0! Coming out of the sun!" The voice of his squadron leader, a clipped British accent, crackled over the RT, sharp with static and adrenaline. Art's head snapped up, his neck muscles screaming against the G-force of his scan. He saw nothing, only the blinding white-gold corona of the sun. The Hun in the sun was the oldest trick in the book, and it worked every bloody time. "Where are they, Red Leader?" "I'm blind," Art yelled into his oxygen mask. The smell inside the cockpit was a sharp cocktail of high-octane fuel, hot oil, and his own cold sweat. 9 o'clock high! 9 o'clock! Break! Blue flight! Break! The sky tore open. Art didn't see the Messerschmitt Bf-109Es. He felt them. A percussive thump-thump-thump that was faster than the .303 caliber Brownings on his own plane. That was cannon fire. 20mm shells, ripping the air apart. He slammed the stick to the right, kicking the rudder. His Spitfire, faithful and elegant, rolled violently. For a second, he was upside down, the chalk-white cliffs of Dover hanging in the sky above him. Then he saw them. 4 yellow-nosed devils slicing through his squadron's formation like sharks through a school of mackerel. The Germans were laughing. Their radio frequency, which the RAF often monitored, was a cacophony of arrogant chatter. "Look at them, Hans," a voice giddy with contempt broadcast. "Flying in their little triangles, like children, Schieß Buddha, a shooting gallery." "Blue 2! Blue 2! He's on you!" Art watched, paralyzed, as the 109 locked onto his wingman, a fresh-faced kid from Sussex. The Spitfire was flying in the standard Vic formation, a V of 3 planes. It was perfect for air shows and disastrous for combat. The wingman, on the outside of the V, couldn't see the 109 diving on his tail. Art, the flight leader, was too busy trying to keep the formation tight to see it either. "Break, damn it, break!" Art screamed. Tracers, a white-hot stream of phosphorus and lead, lanced out from the 109's nose. They stitched a perfect line across the Spitfire's fuselage. The Merlin engine exploded, not in a fireball, but in a sudden, sickening gout of black glycol and white smoke. The plane didn't fall. It simply ceased to fly, tumbling end over end like a broken toy. No parachute. "He's gone, Art! Get out! Get out!" Another 109 flashed past Art's canopy. The German pilot was so close Art could see the white scarf at his throat. The man waved, a gesture of pure, dismissive mockery, before pulling his stick back and climbing vertically, using the 109's superior fuel-injected engine to escape into the sun, untouchable. Art Donovan was alone, his squadron shattered, his wingman dead. The outdated Spitfire, the most beautiful machine he had ever flown, had been swatted from the sky by a tactic he couldn't beat and an arrogance he couldn't comprehend. The Germans' laughter echoed in his headset long after the enemy planes were gone. The summer of 1940 was the fulcrum of the 20th century. France had fallen in a matter of weeks, a shocking collapse that left Britain standing alone, a defiant island against a continent dominated by the swastika. Operation Sea Lion, the German invasion of Britain, was imminent. It needed only one prerequisite: air superiority. The Luftwaffe had to destroy the Royal Air Force. Thus began the Battle of Britain. It was a battle of machine man and mathematics. The Luftwaffe's primary fighter, the Messerschmitt Bf-109E, was a brutalist masterpiece. Designed for a singular purpose, it was a shark. Its Daimler-Benz 601 engine was fuel-injected, meaning it could push into a negative G dive without the engine starving, something the Spitfire's carbureted Merlin couldn't do. It was armed with 2 20mm cannons that could tear a fighter apart with a single 1-second burst. Its pilots, the Jagdflieger, were veterans, blooded in the skies over Spain and Poland. Against this, RAF Fighter Command fielded the Supermarine Spitfire. Where the 109 was brutal, the Spitfire was beautiful, its elliptical wings a perfect marriage of aerodynamic form and function. It was, perhaps, the most maneuverable fighter in the world. In a level-turning fight, it could fly circles around the 109. It was armed with 8 303 caliber machine guns, a shotgun blast of lead designed to saturate a target. The Germans, seeing the Spitfire's lighter armament and its engine's flaw, considered it a pretty outdated relic, a gentleman's plane in a cutthroat's war. But the central problem wasn't the planes, it was the philosophy. The RAF, led by the brilliant but rigid Air Chief Marshal Hugh Dowding, was organized around a revolutionary concept: a vast, integrated system of radar, chain-home, ground-based observers, and central command rooms that could vector fighters to intercept raiders. It was a shield. The Luftwaffe was a sword. The Jagdflieger, led by aces like Adolf Galland and Werner Mulders, had learned in the Spanish Civil War. They abandoned parade ground formations. They flew the Schwarm, a formation of 4 planes, split into 2 pairs called a Rotte. The leader, Rottenführer, focused on hunting, while his wingman watched his tail. It was flexible, aggressive, and deadly. It allowed all 4 pilots to scan the sky, covering each other's blind spots. The RAF, by contrast, was still clinging to fighting area attacks, a pre-war doctrine codified in rigid manuals. Their standard formation was the Vic, a V-shape of 3 aircraft. It looked splendid in a fly-past, but in combat it was a death trap. The 2 wingmen had to focus inward on their leader to avoid a collision, not outward to spot the enemy. The leader, in turn, was so busy leading that he couldn't effectively hunt. It was a formation that was blind, slow to react, and utterly defensive. The Luftwaffe was fighting a hunter's war. The RAF was fighting a tactician's war. And in the brutal skies of August 1940, the hunters were winning. The kill-to-loss ratios were terrifying. Britain was losing pilots faster than it could train them, and the empty chairs in the mess halls of Biggin Hill, Kenley, and Hawkins told a story of a strategy that was failing. The shield was cracking. RAF Hawkinge, Kent, August 29, 1940, 2017. The air in the officers' mess was thick enough to cut. It smelled of stale beer, stale sweat, and stale cigarette smoke. The piano in the corner was silent. Nobody played it anymore. The man who used to play it, a cheerful squadron leader named Banger, had gone into the channel 3 days ago. Lieutenant Jack Cowboy Armstrong, an American from Lubbock, Texas, nursed a warm ale he didn't want. He was one of the first members of the Eagle Squadron, Americans who had crossed the border into Canada to volunteer long before their country was in the war. He was a natural, a man who had been flying crop dusters and racing planes since he was 16. He was, by every definition, one of the best stick-and-rudder men on the base, and he was utterly, profoundly useless. "Another bad one today?" His British squadron leader, Timothy Tubbs Hastings, muttered, collapsing into the worn armchair opposite. Hastings was 24, but his eyes looked 50. "We lost Peterson and Clark," Jack said, his Texas drawl flat. "They never saw it. Just gone. I saw the splash. Clarky. He didn't even get a call out." "It's the bloody sun," Hastings grunted, rubbing his face. "And the Vics. We're just targets. We scramble, we climb to 20,000, we form up, and we sit there blind as bats, waiting for the butcher's axe." A fight broke out in the corner. Not a real fight, but the sharp, ragged edge of frayed nerves. 2 pilots were shouting. "You were supposed to cover me. You were supposed to be there," one screamed. The other just stared, his hands shaking so badly he couldn't light his cigarette. This was the routine. Scramble bell. A desperate, lung-bursting climb to altitude, engines on the verge of overheating. Form up into the neat, tidy, suicidal Vics. Get bounced by 109s diving at 400 miles per hour. A swirling, 10-second melee of chaos, missed shots, and panicked calls. Then the long, quiet flight home, counting the empty spaces in the formation. Land, refuel, rearm, debrief. The group captain would look at the dismal numbers. "Better luck next time, lads." Then sleep. Or try to. Jack would lie on his cot, the thump-thump-thump of the 109's cannons echoing in his ears. He'd see the puff of glycol, the tumble, the splash. He had come here to fight, to make a difference. Instead, he was just high-end, flying bait. "It's the formation," Jack said, his voice low. "It's the manual, cowboy," Hastings corrected grimly. "And the manual is God, and God, apparently, wants us to fly in pretty triangles." "God's gonna get us all killed," Jack replied. The desperation was palpable. It wasn't just about losing planes. Britain was running out of pilots. The veterans were gone. The new sprogs were coming in with barely 20 hours on Spitfires, and they were being fed into the meat grinder. They lasted on average 2 sorties. The Luftwaffe, sensing the kill, was increasing the pressure. Goering had promised the Führer that the RAF would be annihilated. That week, he was proving it. The mockery over the radio was getting worse. "Where are the last of the Tommies?" they'd taunt. "Send up your children." Jack finished his beer. The system was failing. The radar got them to the fight, but the tactics were losing it. If something didn't change, there wouldn't be an RAF left by October. Jack Armstrong wasn't a military man. He was a flyer. His mind didn't work in terms of regulations, ranks, or fighting area attack number 12. It worked in terms of energy, angles, and geometry. He had learned to fly, not in a tidy military circuit, but by barnstorming his way across the Dust Bowl, charging farmers $1 to take them up in his rickety Curtiss Jenny. He'd flown in the Cleveland air races, pushing experimental engines to their breaking point, banking around pylons at treetop height. To Jack, air combat wasn't a parade. It was a knife fight in a phone booth. It was about seeing the other man before he saw you and getting his energy state, his speed and altitude, to work for you. That night, long after the mess hall had emptied, Jack sat at the briefing room table. A single bare bulb illuminated a scarred wooden surface. He had a pencil and a napkin. He drew the RAF Vic. 3 dots. He drew the lines of sight. The 2 wingmen looked in. The leader looked forward. He drew a large shaded cone behind and above them. Blind spot. He wrote it and underlined it. He drew a diving 109 hitting that spot. Dead. He scribbled it out violently. This was stupid. It was organized suicide. He thought back to hunting quail with his father in the Texas Panhandle. You didn't walk in a line. You spread out. You walked in pairs, covering each other. If a bird flushed, one man shot, the other watched. Mutual support. He drew 2 dots, one slightly behind and to the side of the other. Leader and wingman. The leader, he thought, his job is to hunt. He just looks forward. The wingman, his only job is to look back, to watch his leader's tail. Check 6. He drew 2 more dots, doing the same thing, flying wide on the other side. Now he had 4 planes, 2 rotten, as the Germans would call them. A schwarm. But Jack wasn't copying the Germans. He was inventing from first principles, from the principles of a Texas quail hunt. He called his partner, Art Donovan, over. Art, still shaken from his ordeal, looked at the napkin. "What's this, cowboy?" "This," Jack said, tapping the 4 dots, "is how we stopped getting killed." He spaced the dots on the napkin to resemble the 4 fingers of a hand, held out flat. "We fly like this, spread out. A finger 4, maybe, or a fluid 4. I don't care what we call it. A flight and B flight. I lead A, you lead B. My wingman covers my ass. Your wingman covers yours. And we cover each other. We're all looking outward. We've got 360 degrees of visibility. It's wide," Art said, tracing the lines. "The group captain will have a fit. Sloppy flying. Lack of discipline. To hell with discipline," Jack spat, the frustration of weeks boiling over. "I'm talking about survival. Look, a 109 dives on me." He drew a line. "My wingman sees him, calls the brake. I brake right. He brakes right. The Hun tries to follow me. My wingman is now on his tail. The Hun tries to follow my wingman. I reverse and I'm on his tail. It's a weave. It's a defensive. No, it's an offensive weave." The spark was there. It wasn't a new engine or a bigger gun. It was an idea. An abstract, revolutionary, and deeply American idea. Forget the formation. Watch your buddies back. RAF Biggin Hill, Group Captain's Office, August 30th, 1940, 09. Group Captain Alistair Grice was a man carved from old hard wood. His face was a roadmap of duty, his mustache was regulation, and his DFC ribbon from the last war was perfectly aligned. He believed in the King, the Church of England, and the RAF Fighter Command Manual. In that order. He stared at the napkin Jack Armstrong had, at SLDR Hastings' insistence, pinned to the main briefing map. A fluid 4, Grice said, the name dripping with disdain. It sounds like something a dance instructor would invent, Lieutenant. Sir, Jack said, struggling to find the right words, to bridge the gap between their two worlds. The Vic is a death trap. We are blind. We're being bounced on every sortie. This formation, it gives us eyes. It gives you chaos, Grice countered, tapping the map with a wooden pointer. Your planes are spread out over a mile of sky. There's no cohesion, no central command. What if I vector you to intercept a bandit stream? You'll be all over the sky. It's an undisciplined rabble, not an RAF squadron. SLDR Hastings stepped forward. Sir, with respect, the disciplined Vics are being torn to shreds. The Yanks, their idea has merit. The Germans fly something similar. They call it a schwarm. This was the wrong thing to say. We are not the Luftwaffe, squadron leader, Grice snapped. We will not adopt the barbaric tactics of the Hun. We are superior in drill, discipline, and, I might add, in breeding. We will win this battle by the book. The book is getting our men killed, sir, Art Donovan blurted out. The room went dead silent. A colonial lieutenant had just shouted at a group captain. Grice's eyes went to ice. He looked as if he was about to have Art court-martialed on the spot. Jack stepped in. Sir, forgive my wingman. We've lost a lot of friends. All I'm asking is for a chance to prove it. Let me take my flight, just 4 planes, up on a training sortie. We'll fly against Hastings' flight. We'll use camera guns. If it's a rabble like you say, I'll never mention it again. I'll fly the Vic till I'm shot down. But if it works... Grice stared at Jack for a long, cold moment. He hated this. The brash, informal American, the cowboy, challenging decades of RAF doctrine. But he also wasn't a fool. He saw the loss reports. He knew Hastings was right. The numbers were unsustainable. 1 flight, Grice said, his voice clipped. You and Donovan against Hastings and Flight Lieutenant Pierce. You'll use this finger formation. They will fly a standard Vic. Tomorrow, 10 walk hours. And Armstrong? Sir, this had better not be a waste of bloody fuel. Over the Kentish Weald, August 31st, 1940, 10. The prototype wasn't built of duralumin or steel. It was built of altitude, speed, and trust. Jack's voice, calm and steady, came over the RT. All right, fellas, this is cowboy flight. Art, you're blue leader. Take blue 2 and stick on my left about 400 yards out and a little high. Red 2, he said to his own wingman, a quiet kid named Red O'Malley. You stick to me like glue. Your only job is to watch my 6. Don't look for Huns, don't look at the ground. You look back. Got it? Got it, cowboy. O'Malley's voice crackled back. Art, you and your wingman do the same. You're the other half of the shears. We're all looking outward. We see anything, we call it. Clear? 4 eyes answered. They climbed to 15,000 feet. The 4 Spitfires, untethered from the rigid Vic, felt liberated. Jack could feel the difference immediately. It was like taking off a necktie that was too tight. He could bank and weave, check his own tail, and scan the sky, knowing O'Malley was also scanning. The collective situational awareness of their 4-plane element had just quadrupled. Okay, Hastings, Jack called on the command channel. We're at Angels 1-5 over the reservoir. Where are you? Right behind you, cowboy, Hastings' voice replied, followed by the brrrp of a camera gun. Jack's blood went cold. He yanked the stick back and to the left, standing the Spitfire on its wing. Brake left. I see him, O'Malley yelled, his voice high. He's on your tail, cowboy. I'm on him. Art Donovan's voice cut in. Hastings, you're dead. Jack, pulling 5Gs, looked over his shoulder. Hastings' 3-plane Vic had dived on them, expecting to find them in a neat line. Instead, they had found a hornet's nest. As Jack and O'Malley broke hard, Hastings had tried to follow. But Art's element, flying wide, had simply turned inside and was now perfectly positioned on Hastings' 6 o'clock. Brrr. Art's camera gun fired. Damn and blast, Hastings' voice swore. All right, reset. Reset at Angels 1-8. They respawned 3 more times. Each time, the result was the same. If Hastings' Vic tried to bounce Jack's element, Art's element would clobber them. If they tried to bounce Art's element, Jack's would do the honors. If they tried to engage in a traditional turning dogfight, the Vic would shatter, and Jack's Fluid 4 would simply break into 2 tactical pairs, hunting down the scattered planes one by one. The prototype tactic was fast, flexible, and utterly lethal. When they landed, the ground crews were confused. "Everything all right, sir?" one asked Jack. "You were all over the sky." Jack Armstrong just grinned, pulling off his leather helmet. "It's perfect. We were exactly where we needed to be." RAF Biggin Hill, debriefing room, August 31st, 1940, 11:30. The debriefing room was packed. Pilots from 2 other squadrons, hearing rumors of the Yanks' new trick, had crowded in the back. Group Captain Grice stood at the front, arms crossed, his face an impassive mask. "Roll the film," he ordered. The projector whirred to life. The first film was from Hastings' camera. It showed him closing on Jack's 4 Spitfires. They were, as Grice noted, appallingly spread out. "See?" Grice muttered. "Sloppy." Then, on the film, Jack's voice crackled over the audio. "Brake! Brake left!" The 4 Spitfires on the screen didn't scatter. They split. 2 went left, 2 went right, climbing. Hastings' plane, committed to the dive, tried to follow Jack. The camera swung wildly, the G-forces blurring the image. Suddenly, the screen was filled with the belly of Art Donovan's Spitfire, its 8 gun ports flashing mockingly. The film froze on a perfect dead-astern shot. A low whistle went through the room. "Next film," Grice said, his voice tighter. They watched Art's film. It showed Hastings' Vic lumbering in a turn, the 2 wingmen desperately trying to keep station. "Look at them," Art said, narrating from his seat. "The wingmen are blind. They're just passengers." The film showed Art and his wingman diving, completely unseen, and shooting down both of Hastings' wingmen in a single pass. By the time the 4th film ended, the room was buzzing. The pilots in the back were murmuring. They never saw them. "My God, it's a weave." SLDR Hastings, sweating in his flight gear, stood up. "Sir, it was a humbling experience. I never saw them. Not once. My wingmen were dead before I even knew we were engaged. This Fluid 4, it works. It's not a rabble. It's a team." All eyes went to Group Captain Grice. He stared at the blank screen for a full minute. The only sound was the tick-tick-tick of the cooling projector. He was a man of the manual, a man of tradition, but he was also a man who could see the empty chairs in the mess. He was watching his command bleed to death. "Squadron Leader Hastings," Grice said, his voice quiet. "Sir?" "Effective immediately. 71 Squadron will adopt Lieutenant Armstrong's formation for all operational sorties. 242 and 601 squadrons will begin training exercises this afternoon. I want a full report on its combat effectiveness by 18 hours. He turned to Jack. There was no smile, no congratulations, just a curt, sharp nod. "You wanted your chance, Lieutenant. You have it. God help you if you're wrong." Jack nodded back. "We're not wrong, sir." The test was over. Now came the trial. Over Dover, Kent, September 15th, 1940, 14:28. This was it. The day that would be known as the climax of the Battle of Britain. The Luftwaffe was coming in force, a final, massive daylight assault to break the back of fighter command. The sky over Kent was webbed with contrails, a lethal tapestry woven at 25,000 feet. Number 71, Eagle Squadron, flying with the Biggin Hill wing, was vectored to intercept. Jack Cowboy Armstrong was leading blue section. Art Donovan led green section. They were flying as 2 distinct Fluid 4s, stacked 2,000 feet apart. "Tally-ho! Tally-ho!" The wing leader's voice screamed. "Bandits 12 o'clock high, hundreds of them!" Jack looked up and his stomach dropped. It wasn't a squadron, it was an armada. Dornier 17 bombers, flying pencils, were stacked in perfect, grim formations, surrounded by a glittering weaving mass of Bf-109 and Bf-110 escorts. Then, the German mockery began, the frequency-hopping chatter designed to intimidate. "Look, Dieter, Tommies, so few of them. And still in their Vicks, 9 Warta." A new voice, sharp. "They are spread out. What is this?" A third voice, the same arrogant tone Art had heard weeks before. "It doesn't matter. They're outdated Spitfires or coffins. Watch this." A swarm of 4 yellow-nosed 109s detached from the top cover and peeled off, diving straight for Jack's flight. This was the classic bounce. This was the moment of truth. "Blue flight, stand by." Jack's voice was ice cold. He watched the 109s swell in his mirror. They were coming down at over 400 man-in-hours. Wait, brake now, Blue, brake and climb." Jack and his wingman, Red O'Malley, broke hard right, pulling their noses up. Art Donovan and his pair broke hard left, climbing into the attack. The 4 German pilots committed to their dive were utterly bewildered. Their target had just split in half and was now climbing at them from 2 different directions. The German leader, fixated on Jack, tried to follow his brake. It was a fatal mistake. Red O'Malley, whose only job was to watch his leader's 6, now found himself looking at the belly of the 109. "I'm on him, cowboy," O'Malley yelled, his voice cracking with the G's. He hammered the firing button. The Spitfire's 8 303s opened up with a sound like canvas tearing. The stream of bullets, concentrated by the E-pattern harmonization, hit the 109's vulnerable underside. The German plane, built for speed, not for taking hits from below, disintegrated. A wing sheared off, and the plane began a dark, violent spin. "Scratch one! Art, you've got 2 on your 6!" Jack yelled, rolling inverted. He saw Art's element, having broken left, now being tailed by 2 other 109s. "I see him, cowboy. We're weaving," Art called back. Art and his wingman began a perfect scissoring weave. Art would bank left, drawing the 109s, and his wingman would bank right, threatening to cut them off. The German pilots, forced to constantly switch targets, couldn't get a firing solution. "They're suckers, Art," Jack shouted, diving his own element down to help. "I'm taking the trailer." Jack fell in behind the last 109. The German pilot, panicking, pushed his stick forward into a dive. It was the 109's one great advantage. Jack's Merlin engine, its carburetor starved of fuel by the -G, coughed and sputtered. Gah! But Jack was an air racer. He didn't follow, he rolled. He performed a high-speed aileron roll, coming out upside down on the other side of the 109's dive. He was now pulling +G, his engine roaring back to life, and he was still on the German's tail. The German pilot looked back. Jack saw the flash of goggles, the white-rimmed eyes of pure terror. "This one's for Clarky," Jack whispered, and squeezed the trigger. The 109's tail section was shredded. The rudder tore away. The plane snapped into a flat spin, its pilot thrown clear, a tiny black speck against the clouds. Over Dover, the battle was a rout. The Germans, their formations broken, their tactics countered, were being savaged. The outdated Spitfires, now flying with a tactic that maximized their strengths, were turning and burning, ripping the bomber formations apart. The arrogant chatter was replaced by panicked screams. "Back! Back to the coast! Achtung! Spitfire! They are everywhere!" When 71 Squadron landed, mechanics counted the holes. Jack's flight, 0. Art's flight, 0. Their confirmed kills, 6 109s, 2 Dorniers. The trial was over. The verdict was in. No. 11 Group HQ, Uxbridge, September 15, 1940, 1930. Air Vice Marshal Keith Park, the brilliant, exhausted commander of 11 Group, stared at the chalkboard. The numbers for the day were almost unbelievable. The Luftwaffe had lost nearly 60 aircraft. RAF losses were less than half that. It was the greatest defensive victory in the history of air warfare. But Park was looking at a specific report. Biggin Hill Wing, he read. 71 Squadron, engaged by 109 top cover. Lost, 0 aircraft. Claimed, 8 enemy aircraft destroyed. Squadron leader Hastings attributes this, quote, entirely to the new Fluid 4 tactical formation pioneered by his American pilots. Park looked at his senior controllers. Fluid 4? It's a derivative of the German Schwarm, sir, a controller explained. but adapted for the Spitfire. It provides all-around observation and flexible offensive and defensive maneuvers. 71 Squadron tested it yesterday. Today was its first full combat trial. Park, a pragmatic New Zealander, cared about one thing: results. The Biggin Hill wing had outperformed every other wing in his command. "Get me Group Captain Grice," Park ordered. The domino effect was immediate. Grice, now a fervent convert, was ordered to write a full tactical memo. The memo, Tactical Notes on the Fluid 4 Formation, Armstrong, was distributed to every squadron in 11 group by the next morning. The effect was electric. It was as if a light had been switched on. Squadrons like the 303, Polish, and 242, Canadian, already chafing under the old system, adopted it instantly. The change rippled through fighter command. Pilots, for the first time, felt like hunters, not prey. "It's a bloody revelation," one British pilot was quoted as saying. "For the first time since this war started, I actually saw the Hun before he started shooting at me. I owe that Yank a pint." The cowboy weave, as some called it, or the finger four, as it would become known, was standard operating procedure within a week. The kill-to-loss ratios across the command began to tip, slowly but inexorably, in the RAF's favor. Jack Armstrong and Art Donovan were summoned to Uxbridge. They stood, awkward in their rumpled uniforms, before Air Vice Marshal Park. "Lieutenants," Park said, his eyes crinkling with a rare smile. "You are not, strictly speaking, supposed to be here. You are not British subjects, but you are, as of today, two of the most valuable men in this command." He pinned the Distinguished Flying Cross, DFC, on both of their chests. "Your rodeo trick, as Grice called it," Park said to Jack, "is more than clever. It has given us a tool to win. You have given my pilots vision. There is no greater gift. Thank you." The Americans, brash and rule-breaking, had not just proven themselves, they had helped save the RAF. War is a relentless process of adaptation. An innovation, no matter how brilliant, is only a temporary advantage. The Fluid 4 was no exception. Pilots in the field, now empowered, began to refine it. The Finger 4 was the standard cruise formation, but in the chaos of a furball, a swirling multiplane dogfight, it would break down. The core, pilots realized, was the two-plane element, the loose deuce, a leader and a wingman bound by an invisible thread of trust. Squadrons began to stack their formations. A weather element, a high-cover pair, would fly 5,000 feet above the main squadron, acting as bait and early warning. The cowboy weave was refined into the defensive split and the Luftwaffe circle, all variations on Jack's original theme of mutual support. The Americans, now seen as tactical gurus, were at the center of it. Jack Armstrong, to his own bemusement, was grounded for a week and forced to lecture other squadron leaders, drawing his napkin diagrams on massive chalkboards. "It's not about the damn dots," he'd insist. "It's about the space between the dots. It's about trusting your wingman to watch your six." The enemy, of course, reacted. In a fictionalized after-action report, German ace Adolf Galland wrote to his superiors, "The Tommies have changed. They are no longer flying their absurd parade formations. They have adopted a version of our own Schwarm, and their American volunteers are flying it with a particular savage aggression. They are no longer blind. They are breaking into our attacks and their Spitfire. In a turning fight, it is still a deadly machine. Our pilots can no longer count on an easy bounce. We must reevaluate." The Luftwaffe countered. They began sending in high-altitude free hunts, freie Jagd, of 109s, specifically to break up the new RAF formations before they could engage the bombers. They instructed their pilots to never follow a Spitfire into a weave, but to use their energy advantage to climb and dive again. The result was a new, deadlier phase of the battle. The dogfights became higher, faster, and more complex. It was a three-dimensional chess match, and Jack's Fluid 4 was the new opening move. But the RAF now had a strategy that worked. The era of being sitting ducks was over. Success breeds its own problems. The new tactic, while wildly effective, was not a silver bullet. It was a scalpel, and it required a surgeon's touch. The first cost was overconfidence. RAF Hawkinge, September 27, 1940, 15. Red O'Malley, Jack's young wingman, was now an ace. He had 5 kills, all of them gained flying Jack's Fluid 4. He was cocky. On a routine patrol, they spotted a lone 109. "I see him, cowboy! I'm on him!" O'Malley called, and before Jack could respond, O'Malley broke from the formation, firewalling his throttle to chase the German. "Red, damn it! Get back here! It's a trap!" Jack yelled. The Fluid 4 was a team tactic. A single pilot breaking off was suicide. "Red, I'm your wingman. You're leaving me exposed." O'Malley didn't listen. "I've got him. He's smoking." Then from 5,000 feet above, the trap was sprung. 6 more 109s dived from the sun. O'Malley, fixated on his kill, never saw them. "Red, break! 6 high, break!" Jack screamed, pulling his own flight into a desperate climb to help. But they were too far. O'Malley's radio broadcasted a single, startled "oh!" before it was cut off by the sound of 20mm cannon shells striking his plane. The Spitfire vaporized in a flash of orange and black. Jack Armstrong led the remains of his flight home in a terrible, cold silence. He landed and stalked into the debriefing room, where a new, over-eager pilot was waiting for him. "Sir, that was amazing, what you taught us." Jack grabbed the pilot by the front of his tunic and slammed him against the wall. "This isn't a game," he roared, his voice breaking. "You listen to me. That tactic, it's not about killing. It's about living. It's about trust." O'Malley got target fixation. He forgot his partner. He forgot the team. And now he's dead. "My tactic, I got him killed." He released the shaken pilot. The moral weight was crushing. He hadn't just invented a new way to fight. He had invented a new way to die. The Fluid 4 demanded a level of discipline and mutual trust that was almost spiritual. If that trust broke, if one man gave in to ego or fear, the entire system collapsed. The logistical costs mounted too. The new aggressive weaves and brakes put incredible stress on the Spitfire's airframe. Maintenance crews were working 24-hour shifts, patching up microfractures and replacing overstressed wing spars. The engines, run at full combat power for longer, were burning out faster. Jack Armstrong, the hero of Biggin Hill, spent that night alone, drinking, wondering if his brilliant idea was just a faster, more efficient way to feed his friends into the grinder. October 31st, 1940. The air raid sirens were still, for now. The Battle of Britain was, for all intents and purposes, over. On October 12th, Hitler had officially postponed Operation Sea Lion indefinitely. The Luftwaffe had failed. They had failed to destroy the radar, they had failed to destroy the airfields, and most crucially, they had failed to destroy fighter command. The cost had been biblical. Nearly 1,800 German aircraft lost, over 1,500 RAF aircraft destroyed, but Britain had held. The outdated Spitfires, flown by a handful of exhausted pilots, had saved the island. The Fluid 4 was now the bedrock of Western air combat doctrine. It was being taught in every training unit in Britain, Canada, and Australia. When the United States Army Air Forces, USAAF, began to arrive in England a year later, their new P-47s and P-51s would be organized into flights based on the exact same principles. Jack Armstrong's napkin diagram had, quite literally, rewritten the book. Jack and Art were not there to see the end of the battle. Their contributions were deemed too valuable. In late October, with America still neutral but preparing, they were quietly extracted from the RAF and shipped home. Washington, D.C., December 10, 1941. 3 days after Pearl Harbor, Captain Jack Armstrong, USAAF, stood before a room of new American fighter pilots at Bowling Field. He was 26 years old and an aged veteran. He wore his RAF DFC ribbon proudly below his new American wings. "Gentlemen," he said, his Texas drawl cutting through the nervous energy of the room, "you are going to be flying the best planes in the world, but a plane is just a machine. What wins a fight is what's in your head, and who is on your wing." He walked to a chalkboard and drew 4 dots. "This is the finger 4. This is what we learned over Dover. The Germans taught us the lesson, and we taught it back to them. This is how you hunt. But more importantly, this is how you bring your brothers home." His legacy was immediate. He was no longer a cowboy. He was one of the founding fathers of American fighter tactics. His Fluid 4 would be the formation used to sweep the skies clean over Germany, Italy, and the Pacific. The American pilots, flying their Mustangs and Thunderbolts, would come out on top, time and time again, because they were standing on the shoulders of the men who had innovated in the crucible of 1940. Lubbock, Texas, 1995. The old man sat on his porch, watching the West Texas sunset paint the sky in strokes of orange and purple. The air was dry, a world away from the damp chill of a Kentish airfield. Jack Cowboy Armstrong, retired colonel, USAF, held a glass of iced tea. A documentary crew was packing up their cameras. They had been interviewing him for a 50th anniversary special on the Battle of Britain. Historians debate the true inventor of the Finger 4. A voiceover from the documentary would later say, Werner Mulders of the Luftwaffe perfected the Rote and Schwarm. Sailor Malan of the RAF codified his 10 rules. But the catalyst for its rapid, desperate adoption in RAF 11 Group, the moment the tide truly turned, came from an unlikely source. A handful of brash, undisciplined, and brilliant American volunteers in the Eagle Squadron. They weren't just fighting for Britain, they were redesigning aerial warfare in real time. The interviewer, a young woman, had asked him one final question. Colonel, the Germans on the radio, they really mocked the Spitfire? They called it outdated? Jack smiled, a slow, wrinkled smile. He looked at a framed photo on his side table. It was a black and white shot of 4 young men in RAF uniforms, squinting in the sun, leaning against the wing of a Spitfire. Art. Red. Himself. Oh, they laughed, Jack said, his voice still holding a trace of that old drawl. They thought she was just a pretty thing, too polite for a real war. They thought we were just cowboys playing soldier. He picked up the photo, his thumb tracing the face of Red O'Malley, the wingman who never came home. They said we were a shooting gallery over Dover, he continued, his eyes distant, seeing not the sunset, but a sky full of contrails. Guess they were right. We just disagreed on who was the gallery and who was the shooter. He fell silent, lost in the roar of a Merlin engine that only he could hear. The innovation hadn't been his alone. It had been born of desperation, paid for in blood, and proven by men of a dozen nations. But he had been the catalyst. He was the cowboy who showed the knights a new way to joust. That Spitfire, he said quietly, mostly to himself. She was never outdated. She was just waiting for the right dance partner. The final shot of the documentary was not of the old man. It was of a restored Spitfire, painted in 71 squadron colors, banking in a perfect climbing roll high above the white cliffs of Dover, disappearing into the sun.